Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I wanted to do a little video just chatting with you guys and having a little story time. I didn't get a chance to upload my last week's vlog just because life has been lifing, but I wanted to kind of give you guys a little inside scoop of what's been going on. And that way you guys just have an idea, because I feel like if you follow me on Snapchat, you kind of have more of an idea. I also was talking a little bit about it on my live, but like you guys know, Mateo was actually in the hospital about 3 days ago, and he had a febrile seizure. So you guys already know, as far as like the history with my kids having febrile seizures. Camila had 2 of them. She just turned 5, so she should hopefully be outgrowing them already. And then Mateo had a febrile seizure, and I want to say, has it been 2 different episodes? So I'm going to kind of backtrack you guys to let you guys know kind of like what's been happening with him. So if you follow me on Snapchat and on Instagram, you guys know he had a febrile seizure at the bowling alley. And that was the very first febrile seizure that he had. He had the seizure. It was really quick. We took him to the ER, and that was just kind of it. You know, he had the seizure. We took him home, and then he was fine. Then around his birthday, he had another febrile seizure, and this seizure happened, I was actually not home, and I low-key feel like I have like PTSD or something, because anytime that Ulises calls me now and I'm not home and it's just him and the kids, I like, my heart drops. Like, I get like this feeling that like literally my heart just drops, and I'm just like, oh my god, like, is everything okay? I'm like, what happened? And then Ulises like, relax, calm down. I feel like I am just so scared to like even answer the phone now whenever I'm not home, that I'm just like, oh my god, are the kids okay? Are the kids okay? You know, like that's like the first thing I think about. So I wasn't home. I was actually with my mom. We were at the store, and Ulises calls me and he's like, Mateo's having a febrile seizure. And I was like, oh my god, like, is he okay? He's like, he's fine, don't worry, like, he's all right. You know, we did everything we had to do. We're pretty familiar with the seizures now, so like we know the protocol, especially with febrile seizures. We have to like get them undressed and make sure that they're not overheating, anything like that. So, you know, he got him undressed. It took him a minute to kind of like come back, and we started noticing that he was doing this thing where he would just get stuck to the left side. Like, he would just like stay looking to the side. And I'll insert pictures so you guys can have an idea of kind of what we're talking about. He's just kind of like stuck, and I had told the doctor that it felt unusual, that it didn't seem like a normal febrile seizure, like it didn't seem like my daughter's, you know, from what I had experienced. So we didn't call the ambulance that time. Ulises was like, let's just chill and see if he's okay. But then something told me like we should just take him to the ER to at least get checked to see if he's okay, you know. So by that time I'm already home. I'm, you know, coming home I was in the valley, and it took me about 25 minutes to get home. So I drove to my house. I get there, and then he's kind of like a little out of it. He's just, you know, not like a little fussy, like you could tell that he was uncomfortable. So I was like, let's just take him to the ER. So we get to the emergency room, and when we get to the emergency room, he spikes up another fever and he gets another febrile seizure. So at that point, we're already in the ER, you know, they're taking care of him, they're watching him, and I'm like panicking. I'm like, oh my god, he had a second one. I was like, they usually say that it's a simple febrile seizure if they only have one. If they have more than one in a 24-hour period, it's called a complex febrile seizure, meaning that complex seizures could either last more than 5 minutes or continue, like you get like clustered, you know, seizures. So he got another one, and because he got the second one, that's when they made the decision to basically to send us to a Kaiser Children's Hospital. It's basically a Kaiser that has a pediatric center specifically, you know, for kids and all of that. So that one is like off of Sunset. And they took us there. It was amazing, honestly. Like, the staff was so good. Like, they made me feel so comfortable. They were so reassuring. Especially because there was a lot going on for me at that time. I was like, I don't even know what's happening. I was so confused. I was like, is he okay? Is he fine? So then, we're at the hospital. Now we're already on like the second day. We're already past the 24-hour period. And I have Mateo in my arms, and they were like, let's just do an EKG for him. So it's EKG? No, that's for heart. EGG? No, EEG. I think it's an EEG. I don't know the term, but it's when they put like a bunch of little wires on the baby's head, and they will, run a test to make sure that everything looks good. It happened to be that he spiked up another fever while he had the monitors in his head, and it triggered another febrile seizure. And the thing about the febrile seizures is that they are all accompanied by a fever. So that's like the positive thing, that they are accompanied by a fever. So it's not like he's just getting the seizures on their own, because that would be definitely a little bit more concerning. But when he had the machine in his head, he got another febrile seizure, but it was good. No, it was not that it was good, but we were glad that it happened, because we were finally able to basically see the rhythm of the seizure happening on the test. So when I was there, they told us that it didn't seem abnormal, like nothing for us to be concerned about, but they did see that it was only coming from like one side of the rhythm. I don't know, like it's really hard for me to even explain because I don't even know myself, but that it did look like it was a little alarming or concerning. I don't even know what word they used, to be honest. They told me not to worry, that it could be anything, but that it was something that we should definitely get checked out. And by that point, they were like, we should think about doing an MRI, but they didn't push it. Like, they didn't say that it was something that was needed at the time, that it can all just very much be just a febrile seizure, especially because I used to get febrile seizures, and I didn't get my last febrile seizure until I was like 5-6 years old. So I have a very, very big history of seizures, which I have actually shared with you guys prior to me even having kids. I was a very sick kid. Like, I was a very sick child. I would always get random fevers. I used to get fever attacks. My fevers used to spike up to 106. Like, I struggled a lot during my childhood, and I think that's kind of like even where my hypochondriac comes from, because I know that I was such a sick kid. I did explain that to the doctor, so they're like, okay, that could definitely be just hereditary. Seizures in general, even epilepsy, like seizures in general, when there's history, there's a big chance that your children are also going to be hereditary of those things. So when he told me that, it was obviously a little reassuring, but that still doesn't stop my mind from thinking like, well, why is this happening, right? And I was like on a feed of, parents that were talking about like kids with their seizures and stuff, and I was reading a bunch of stories, and Mateo's case is not the only case where parents have had multiple seizures happen in one day. There was this one case where this little boy had like 7 seizures in a day, and he's completely fine. He never got diagnosed with epilepsy or anything like that. So it was all obviously reassuring that hopefully he was okay, but it was alarming to us to know that he had an abnormal scan, so, but then they said that could have been anything, and especially kids his age, that they always have abnormal scans in situations like that, especially when they don't know where the seizure is coming from. And he had an ear infection on the left side, so he said that also could have been why it was radiating only on one side. So he gave me like a whole rundown of what could have been and what couldn't have been. He didn't think that there was a high chance of it being epilepsy for me to just kind of like have that peace of mind, and we left it at that. So we didn't do an MRI, and especially because they have to sedate him, they didn't think that it was necessary, right? So then fast forward, this was in April, May, June, July. We're in July. 3 months later, he gets sick again. He spikes up another fever, and this time around he didn't have any underlying condition. Like, he didn't like any underlying illness. He didn't have a flu. He didn't have a fever. He didn't have a stomach bug. Nothing. It was just the fever, So that's when I was like, okay, well, why is he just getting a random fever in the middle of July, But obviously he's a baby. He's a kid. Like, kids get fevers all the time. I tried not to question so many things, because then I spiral into my own thoughts. And then I'm going to start thinking about every worst case scenario. And if I'm being completely honest, I feel like this is why I didn't really share with you guys the first time that it happened, because I want you guys to be mindful of what you guys message me or comment down below. Because I don't want to hear the bad stories, like, I don't want to hear like about like as soon as I posted on Snapchat, somebody was like, oh my god, like kids die from that. And I'm like, I don't want to hear those things. Like if you have comforting words to share, if you have, you know, good outcomes to share, like those are the things that I want to know. I don't want to know about all of the things I'm already thinking in my own head. You know what I mean? So that was the first time that I decided not to even say anything, because one, I didn't have answers myself, and two, I just didn't want to hear any of those things, you know? So if anything, I share these things with you because I want you guys to be prepared, or to at least have somebody you can relate to if you're going through something like this, because sometimes I wish I had somebody to relate to me, you know, share with you guys that, you know, these things do happen and they are fairly common, but in Mateo's situation, it's less common to have so many seizures so consistently. So that time when we went to the ER, he had a total of 3 seizures, and they decided to give him seizure medication to basically stop the seizures from happening. He didn't have any more, so we don't know if it was a medication that helped or if he just didn't have them. And it only that medicine that they gave him only helps him for 24 hours, so it doesn't help him like long term or anything like that, and they didn't feel the need to continue it. They did give me also a dose of another medication that if God forbid he got a seizure longer than 5 minutes, I would basically put like a suppository up, you know, and it would stop the seizure from happening. This is if it was to go longer than that. So this is all the stuff that obviously like I've kind of been going through and dealing with, right? So we baptized Mateo, and that whole situation was just such a crazy roller coaster of emotions for me. Like I was just praying and praying and praying. And if you're somebody who believes in God, and if you don't, just disregard me and skip to the next, you know, because sometimes with religion it's really hard to be open about certain things because not everybody believes the same beliefs. But I believe what I believe, and it was just crazy because I'm going to show you guys this picture. When we were leaving, I was so it was right after he got his second seizure. I mean, his third seizure, his final one, that I was like, oh my God, like I felt just so desesperada and so helpless, and I just didn't know what to do. And I felt like I was already praying, but I feel like I prayed like I never before. And when this picture popped up, I literally got like goosebumps in my whole body, and I was just like, God, you hear me? Yeah, I'm like, I know you hear me. But he basically got Mateo, I looked at his arm, and he got like a little, they had drawn blood off of him, and in that blood drawn, they it left like a little cross on his arm. And I was like, is this the sign that I was looking for? I'm like, is this the sign that I needed? I was like, am I, you know, is this like your answer to me? You know, at that moment, like that's what I was feeling. And we were gonna cancel his party because we were supposed to baptize him and then he was gonna be turning 1. So after I saw that little cross, I was like, okay, maybe this was just the little motivation I needed. And we ended up going to take him to get baptized, and we, you know, still celebrated him, and he was a little out of it, like he was still very like disconnected, but then after that he was fine. And that time he was battling an ear infection, so it did take him a minute to kind of come back and feel like himself. So fast forward to July, we were in Vegas. A couple of days ago for a work convention thing that, you know, we had going on, and it's crazy because we were actually supposed to stay until Wednesday. And Yvette was staying with my mom to help her with the babies, because my mom, she can't stay with the babies overnight just because, you know, she's older and she gets tired and stuff. So I wouldn't put that much responsibility on her to be with my babies all day. My mom literally just takes care of the kids throughout the day while I'm at work, and that's it, you know. So I asked Yvette, like, hey, can you come help my mom take care of the babies because I'm going to be gone. She was like, yeah, for sure. And I ran her through everything. I showed her like where, if he was to have a seizure, what to do, how to handle it. If he was choking, I have like the little choking machine. Like I gave her the whole runaround, right, with all of my kids, because now I'm just like paranoid with all of them. And Yvette was like, oh my God, I hope I don't have to use it, you know. And I'm like, you're going to be fine. But like, I don't know, like I feel like as moms, sometimes we just have intuitions, we have gut feelings that things are just gonna, I don't know, not be good. But I did run down everything. So then we ended up coming home. On Tuesday. And we got home like around 9:30ish, 10 o'clock. I got home. I said hi to the babies. Mateo was already asleep. Max and Camila were already asleep. I just went and did my round around the rooms and kiss, kiss, kiss. And I missed you guys, my babies. And then Mateo was fine. He was asleep. He was chilling. And I got into the shower. I got myself together. I put my PJs on. And then I got into bed. And as I'm laying in bed, Mateo wakes up. And he's like, quejándose. Like, he's like, like something was bothering him. And I was like, that's weird. And he was like, and he wasn't quejándose. Like, moms, we know, right? Like, he wasn't quejándose like, levántame, I want to go to the bed with you. Because I know the difference. This was like quejándose like algo le estaba doliendo. So I picked him up and I just decided to put him on me, like lay him on my chest. And I felt that he was a little warm. And I told Ulysses, I'm like, he feels hot. And then I said, oh my God. Like immediately I was like, oh my God. I was like, he feels warm. I ran downstairs. I got the thermometer and I got all his medicine. I got his little bullet injection thingy so I can, if anything was to happen, I was already prepared. And, you know, it was going to be throughout the night. So I wanted to make sure that I was ready and I was good. So that happened, just laid, and you can tell that he's like waking up and he's honestly like delirious. Like I could tell his fever was coming and it was coming fast. And that's the difference between seizures. That febrile seizures, it's not how high the temperature gets, it's how fast the temperature comes. So as much as I tried to prevent it, I gave the baby Tylenol. As much as you can try to prevent it, unfortunately, there's no preventative. Like if the baby's gonna have the seizure, he's gonna have the seizure. And from what the doctors explained to me, they're saying that, you know, it's scarier than it looks. Sometimes it's better for the babies to have seizures because it's protecting their brains from a fever spiking up too fast. And Mateo was ranging from a fever of 102 to 104. And it was just really scary, honestly, because one, we didn't even know what was going on. Yvette said that the baby was fine. Mateo was fine. He was eating fine. He was engaging. They were playing. They were having a good time. They were okay. So I was like, I wonder where it came from, you know, because it kind of just came out of nowhere. But then we were also with one of my friend's sons who was also kind of like feeling under the weather, and he had been battling something for a couple of days. So I was like, maybe he caught what he got. Like, I don't know. Kids are germs, you know, kids are little baby germs. Like, no matter how much we try to prevent things from happening, kids are kids, and they're going to get germs everywhere. So, I remember me just laying him. He's like delirious. He's like kind of like looking away, and then he's like twitching. Like he's like twitching. As soon as he starts like twitching like this, I already felt it in my core that it was coming. Like I felt it. I knew it was coming. I was just kind of like bracing myself for the moment. I told Ulysses, like, just, you know, take his clothes off, air him out, like let him get some air while the Tylenol kicks in. And he's just like twitching, like, and he would cry when he would twitch because he was getting scared. And those twitchings are always the indicator to me. Like now I can see it. So his feet get really cold. So this is something that I've noticed that with Mateo. His feet get really, really cold. His face gets super, super flush. He starts to twitch, and then the seizure happens. So immediately he went into a seizure, and then I just looked at Ulysses. Ulysses looked at me, and we were just kind of like, oh my God, you know, like Ulysses is like, you're fine. It's okay. Like I feel like he had to kind of like calm me down. Even though I go into mom mode immediately, like I don't even feel anything. I feel like I just go numb. Like honestly, I don't even know how to describe the feeling. I always cry like days later. Like I never react. Like it's like I feel like I'm like living in a dream. And I just remembered me calling 911 and letting them know, hey, like my son had a seizure. And the reason we called 911 this time around was because he had repetitive ones. I didn't want it to happen again. So, you know, that happened. He had the seizure, and then the paramedics got there. They took him in. We took him to a hospital nearby, and then in the hospital, he spiked up a fever again, but he didn't have a seizure. And then he spiked up a few fevers with no seizures. So then I was like, okay, I was like, maybe it's just like one and done, you know, and like he's going to be good. So then they ended up transferring us back to the Kaiser that we were at. And when we were at the hospital, you know, they were like, we're just going to monitor him for 24 hours just because of the history of the seizures before. We want to make sure that you have peace of mind, and honestly, like, I appreciate that so much, because there's been so many times when parents, you know, they just get brushed off. Like, oh, he's fine. It's just a seizure. Oh, it's fine. It's just a seizure. Like, they were being so on top of everything, making sure that I left feeling comfortable, making sure that all my questions were being answered, making sure that I had peace of mind. And I appreciated that so much, because in a time like this, you never know. And I was just so happy to know that there was people who, cared enough about my baby to not just send me home to deal with it at home. So, the doctor came in and he was like, I'm going to have them monitor him for 24 hours. And if he doesn't have a seizure, then he'll, we'll send you guys home. And I was like, okay, perfect. I said, and then he reviewed, the results with me of the scans that he's had, what he's thinking, what his ideas were. I think he's honestly just as confused as I am. I think it sucks because it's like we're expecting doctors to know everything, right? And I give doctors so much grace, and I give nurses so much grace, because it can be so frustrating. Even Ulises, like, he gets so angry because he says that I'm so calm sometimes, but I advocate for my babies. I will be the first person to advocate for them and be like, no, we're not leaving. But I also hold a lot of grace for the doctors and the nurses when I see that they really are doing their job and they can't find a solution immediately. I think we think that they're supposed to just know everything. And, they're human. They're still learning. They're still trying to figure things out. Sometimes cases are so different for them that they've never even seen something like that before. So it's like, I can't sit here and be like, tell me what's wrong with my kid, when they probably don't even know what's going on or what's wrong. So I feel like I just tried to handle myself with as much grace as I can. I just prayed and I just tried to make sure that I was there for Mateo in whatever way I possibly could, in whatever way I could, because like I said, there was no solution, there was no answers, there was nothing that they could possibly tell me. Like, they tested him for COVID, they tested him for influenza, they tested him for rashes and bacterials and virals. They tested him for everything you could think of. They drew his blood, they drew everything, his urine, it was clear as can be. His blood count was great, everything was fine, nothing was showing any abnormalities. It was just the febrile seizure that happened. So at that point, they do tell me these are the things we're gonna take into our hands, because now we have to figure out what's going on. So by this point, he has another seizure. He has his second one, and it was really short. They were quick too. His seizures are fast. They're 20 seconds. They don't last very long. And the doctor basically said, okay, we're just going to keep him here and let's just do an MRI. So because he was still spiking up a fever, they didn't approve us for the MRI. They told us that they didn't think it was the smartest idea for us to do that, because he was still he was still really little. He was spiking up a fever. They were scared that he might have a seizure while he's under the anesthesia. So they just wanted to make sure that it was safe. Also, another thing that I appreciated, because I was like, oh my God, how are we going to put him under if he's still sick? So that's awaiting. I have an appointment to go see a neurologist, and then I have an appointment to do an MRI. So obviously I'm just hoping and praying that everything is okay and that he is fine, that it's obviously nothing serious. Or the bad thing is that he can't communicate with me, so it's I can't even ask him if there's something wrong with him. I can't even ask him if he's okay or if something's hurting him, because I don't know. And I was just trying to piece things together. The first time he had a seizure, he had fallen a couple of days before, and then he had a seizure a couple of days later, and then he had fallen a couple of days before, and then he had another seizure after. So I'm is there something wrong with his brain? He did fall, but then the doctors were no, because usually when kids fall, if it's triggered by a fall, the seizure will happen right away, not 4 days later. So just because it's happening in the same week doesn't mean it's connected, So then I was okay, I'm telling you guys, my mind will spiral, and I ask every question. I write down everything, anything weird that he does, anything that I've seen that he's doing that's out of normal. If he's tugging at his ear or anything, or his head, or anything like that, I'm writing it down to make sure the doctors know. But as of right now, unfortunately, we don't have all the answers that I wish we did have. But all I can hope and pray for is that it's probably just a case of really bad seizures, just like I would have when I was little. And Ulises used to have them too, so it's hereditary on both sides, his and mine. So it's double the chances that something can go wrong, as far as that he could have the seizures. So I'm just hoping, and with kind of what's been happening, because a lot of you guys have been asking questions and just asking why Mateo and Camila have both gotten seizures. So just so you guys do know, they do run in our family. My brother had them as well. Ulises' brothers got them as well. So it's it goes really hard on both sides of our family. Are our chances higher of him developing epilepsy? I don't think so, based off of what the doctor told me. Our chances of it being he basically told me that the chances of it being epilepsy are very short, but they're not going to disregard it. You know, they want to make sure that they just clear him of everything, and I am just so grateful and appreciative of that. And I'm just hoping that we get good news. We'll have some news by next week, but I'm going to bring you guys along with just this whole experience because they are going to be sedating him, and I was a little nervous about that. But I wanted to go ahead and bring you guys along because this is obviously part of my life, part of something that I'm going through, and I don't want you guys to see me or like maybe on live or be somewhere and be like, what's wrong with her? What's you know, or be wondering what's happening, and just understand kind of like where I'm at in my life. My birthday is actually tomorrow, and we have a trip to Miami. And I was honestly like contemplating if I even wanted to go because obviously he hasn't been feeling good. He hasn't been, like, he's better now. Like, he hasn't had a fever since we left the hospital. But I'm like, do I risk it? Like, taking him on a plane all the way to Miami, us not being home? Like, do I just wait till they give us a clear and tell us that we're fine? Like, I just have so many thoughts. And then part of me just has like mom guilt if I don't do anything, because like Max and Camila, you know, they're asking me like, oh, are we going on our trip? Are we going on our trip? Like, they're so excited. And you know, when I spend time on the hospital with Mateo, like, I'm not with Max and Camila, and then they're questioning that, and they're like, why are you always with Mateo and you're not here with me? And it's like, it's hard to like explain it to little people who don't understand and they don't get it. And I don't want them to understand. I don't want them to know what's necessarily happening, but I also want them to know that I'm there. So I'm like, do I take them to the trip and make sure that they're okay? Or, you know, what about Mateo? Like, I can't leave him behind, because if something happens to him and I'm like in Miami, like, I'd rather him be with me. If something happens, at least we're together and we're in Miami. But I don't know. I just have so many thoughts and so many emotions and so many feelings, and everything's just kind of like happening. But we're okay. I'm okay. He's okay. We're okay. And it's going to be okay. But yeah, I'm gonna go on live right now. So you guys are probably like, what the fuck, when I go back into my life. But if you go on my lives, then you'll know the shebang. But tomorrow I am launching tomorrow for EXO Cosmetics, we're launching a birthday bundle. So that's what we're going to be promoting today. So it's literally all of my favorites for EXO Cosmetics. A lot of you guys have been asking for birthday bundles. Well, not a birthday bundle, but we're asking for like a bundle of like all my faves, so it's easy to shop. So we created it for you guys. We heard you guys, and we are making it happen. So yeah, that's going to be tomorrow. But by the time this goes up, it's going to be, well, I'm probably posting it tonight. But yeah, guys, thank you guys for letting me vent and listening to me. I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys on my next video.